Hello to all of our newly admitted Tritons for fall 2024. On behalf of the International Services and Engagement Office, ISCO, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be. We are excited to welcome you to UC San Diego. My name is Vanessa Cisneros, and I'm an International Student Advisor here at ISCO. We're so excited to welcome you here today. I have called San Diego home since 2005, and when I am not supporting our international students here at UC San Diego, you can find me beekeeping, paddleboarding, or finding local eats here in San Diego. I look forward to getting to know you in the next 4 years, 2 years, or 6 and beyond. Not only for your immigration related questions, but also to learn about your experience here at UCSD. And I'll be your host today. A few quick housekeeping notes before we get started. First, you're in listen only mode, so while you can hear us, we can't hear you. Second, the session is being recorded and will be available at inewstudentwebinars.ucsd.edu. Third, if you have questions, please use the Q&A box. We'll address as many as possible during the session, and you can also reach out later at icontact.ucsd.edu for further assistance. Lastly, stick around until the very end. We'll have a survey that you can enter to win a gift card. And so let's begin. We are so happy to welcome you to our session, Protect Yourself, Campus Safety and Scams. We have 4 campus partners today. It's so important to understand safety in a US context, California context, San Diego, and also on campus. So we're so happy you decided to spend time with us today. We'll begin with some introductions from our wonderful panelists this morning. We can start with UCPD.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sergeant Sheldon King with the UCSD Police Department. Been here for 18 years. I'm currently in charge of the Community Service Officer Program, who work for the police department. So there are student workers. We do have many international students that work with us. So if you're interested, want to, I'm assuming you're all here now, go ahead to the CSO website and apply at the bottom, click the link. But welcome, everyone.
Okay, I suppose I'll go next. Hi, everybody. I'm John Carlos Sr. I'm an attorney and I'm the director at Student Legal Services. So our office provides free confidential counseling, education, and referrals to all currently registered students and student organizations. It's great to see you all. And I look forward to meeting you all in person. I'll turn it over to my colleague at Carrot Sark, Jessica.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a training and education specialist with CARE at the Sexual Assault Resource Center. And we support folks who have been impacted by sexual violence. And I'll share more about this in a moment, but excited to be sharing this space with you all.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Christina Key. I am a student account advisor at Student Financial Solutions. We offer support for all the students here regarding their general student billing account. And then, yeah, we'll get to my contact information during my slides later.
All right, thank you for the introductions, everyone. And without further ado, we'll start with UCPD.
All right, everyone. The most or one question that I get from international students is why do we have a police department? And that's because there's 80,000 people here, and the officers here are student focused. So they're not out on the streets dealing with the norm or our community outside of college life. So our officers are student focused. So next slide, please. Here, one more time. So one thing I'm going to go over our departments within the police department and common violations that normally occur to the international or with the international students. And I'll talk about scams and identity thefts real fast, but John Carlos will touch on that in detail a little bit later. And then questions at the end of the webinar. Next slide, please. One more time. All right, so in the United States, we have our federal laws. You are in the state of California, which gives us our California laws. You're within a city of San Diego, which gives you the municipal codes or municipal laws, and then the campus itself has its own laws. So there are a bunch of laws that you have to abide by, but mainly just be a good person and you should be okay. Next slide, please. So the UC San Diego Police Department works with our community campus partners to create a safe campus environment for our community members. Again, I'm going to share some important information with you. We were founded in 1960. I don't know who put that on there. So we've been here for a little while. We have 275 officers throughout the state of California. So all the UCs, UCLA, Davis, and all 10 campuses. We have 50 officers here on campus who work closely with the students. Being a part of this campus community helps build and maintain trust and a positive working relationships with our students. Our officers interact closely with the students through various programs such as residential hall liaisons, Greek liaisons, and engagement events like coffee with a cop and pizza nights, and we'll hand out donuts for special occasions. Next slide, please. USOs, they are part of the police department. So their major job or their job is to guard the dorms. They complete training as if they were police officers with the exception of a few things. They get to know the residents. They become very involved with the residents. The guy on the screen, he's been here since 2007 or 8 and is well known with the students. He's very well liked and he's a good person. So some of you will get to meet him, and all his name is Mike Gibson. There are 2 USOs assigned to each residential area, and they work from 8 at night till 6 in the morning. Next slide, please. Again, CSOs, that's why I'm in charge of. They work random hours, mostly at nighttime, 10 to 20 hours per week, mostly in the evenings. They conduct escorts and they also work security events. They get to work concerts, dignitary protection. So a lot of I won't go into too much detail with them, but they love their job, at least to my face they do. But it's a good position. Next slide, please. Law enforcement. Next slide, please. All right, the common violations. All right, fake IDs. Many of our students who are not 21 will hand us fake IDs. That is a huge no-no on campus. That comes with a arrest, and if you have a driver's license, it comes with a suspension. So no fake IDs, false information regarding identity. A lot of people don't want to get in trouble, but what that does is cause a deeper hole for you to dig out of. All right, so provide your correct information if you were to get stopped, and a correct ID. If you're not 21, you're not supposed to be drinking. So we've all been in college, we all understand. All right, but if you're not 21, you're not supposed to be drinking. So even being in possession of a drink, an alcoholic drink, you can get a citation for that. Open container, even if you're 21 and you have an open container, an open beer in public, you could get a citation for that as well. Loud music, being excessively drunk in public, so where you're unable to take care of yourself, and you're walking on the streets. All right, the police officers will stop and detain you and take you to a place where they know you will be safe. All right, not necessarily you're going to get arrested, but there is a place called Detox that we will take the students who are cooperative, drop them off and let them get some sleep until so we can know that they're safe. Resisting arrests, do not resist arrest. It just causes problems for everyone. If you're 21 and you give someone who is not 21 or under 21 an alcoholic beverage, that is a huge citation. So just keep that in mind for those who are over 21. Additional ones, vandalism, urinating in public, and even if you're 18 or under 21, you cannot even transport alcohol. So if you have it in your trunk, you cannot transport alcohol. So next slide, please. False information regarding identity, again, possession of a fake ID, being dishonest about your ID, having ID showing that you're 21 or older, and even being in possession of a fake ID are all violations. So don't do it. Next slide, please. Furnishing alcohol to a minor, and I've already discussed most of these, but it could be up to a $3,000 fine. So do not give anyone under 21 an alcohol if you're older than 21. And know who's at your party as well, because many people will throw a party or have a social event and not realize that there are people who are under 21. So make sure you know who's at your party. All right, next slide, please. Again, open container, even having it cracked like on a picture is considered an open container. A citation can come with that if you're out in public and you have that open container with you. Next slide, please. And public intoxication. It's just basically you can't take care of yourself. All right. And when the police show up and we realize that, again, we have to take you somewhere to where we make sure that you're safe. Next slide, please. Many people will be done with their finals and then they start to have a good time turning up music and things like that. Just be aware, not everyone's done with their finals. Some people work early in the morning. So disturbing the peace is really considered a crime. So keep in mind, there are quiet hours, and treat your neighbors like you want to be treated, and the walls are thin. All right, next slide, please. What to do if the police stop you. Do not run. Do not argue. Do not touch. Do not resist. Tell the truth and don't lie. Stay calm and go with the flow. And John Carlos later, he'll give you some, how you do have rights along with that. So he'll go through those rights as well. So when you go to court, if you go to court, I hope none of you do, just professionally be prepared and then just have something to say. So next slide, please. Property theft. The best thing to do is either engrave your property or write your name on it, label it. Because when things get stolen, and it does happen on this campus, it's hard for the police to identify your property, even if they catch someone with it. So label your property. Remember to lock your doors. If you have a vehicle here, if you buy a car, don't leave anything in plain sight. Keep all of your personal information locked up. There is a lot of identity theft that goes on here. So just keep your information locked up. Next slide, please. All right, just the tips that we want to give to everyone. No loud music after hours. Stay with your friends or with the group this late at night or after hours. Try to fly under the radar. Don't draw attention to yourself. If you're going to drink, get your own drink, and then know your limits. Have a cutoff. And again, you have to be 21. Be disciplined and drink responsibly. Next slide, please. A major problem with the international students are scams and identity theft. All right, scams is a big one. Next slide, please. Extortion. Students are often targets of extortion and scams. Can anyone want to guess the largest loss in UCSD history as far as a scam? You go ahead and show it. All right, $1.1 million the student lost this year. Okay, that is a ton of money. All right, so be aware of those scams. Again, I'm not going to go into details because we're going to be talking about it later, but the police from China aren't going to come to the US and arrest you, because that's what happened here. They were threatened with arrest, student from China. So, and the IRS will never contact you, so those are the two biggest worries of our international students. Next slide, please. Common scams, sales, king and queen and prince from another country If they contact you and ask you for money, you might want to just ignore that one. All right. Threats of withholding diploma, threat to your visa, offer to pay your tuition, third-party payments, all are scams. All right, next slide, please. Government agency scams. Again, the IRS, Social Security, people will call you saying that they are these agencies, even the DMV. So if they ask you to pay by gift card or Bitcoin, you might want to follow up on that, because no U.S. agency will ask you for a gift card or Bitcoin. All right, just keep that in mind. Next slide, please. Just remember, anyone could be anyone on the internet. All right, anyone could be anyone. So you may think you're talking to someone and you're really talking to someone else. So don't share your personal information. Don't send nude photos, especially the nude photos. Students will send nude photos over and they will expect the police to get it back. All right, we cannot. All right, and then we're also not going to go over to another country to try to find the person that you gave $3,000 to. Okay, so do not send nude photos of yourself at all. All right, do not meet with anyone you don't know, and again, don't send money to anyone you haven't met personally or you don't know personally. Next slide, please. Again, you may think you're talking to the people on the left, but really, it could be anyone. All right, next slide, please. Identity theft. These are clues that someone has stolen your identity. If withdrawals are coming from your bank account and you have no reason why, you might want to check with your bank account. And when you get here, the best thing to do is get an American bank account. All right, if something happens in your bank from overseas or from your home country, we cannot do anything about that. All right, so get a U.S. bank once you get here. If you stop getting your bills, if your credit cards aren't working, if they still have checks, if your checks are bouncing, just look into that. All right, debt collectors are calling you. If you see unfamiliar accounts on your credit report, and then again, if the IRS notifies you that more than one tax return was filed, all scams. Next slide, please. Ways to protect yourself: contact your consulate, monitor your financial statements, check your credit reports regularly. Open an American credit card and bank account, shred your documents, strengthen your password, guard your social security number if you choose to get one while you're here. Use social media wisely, secure your phone, know your signs of phishing email, and keep your mail safe. And keep in mind, some of these scammers, they target students. They target UCSD international students. So keep that in mind. Next slide, please. If you're a victim of a crime, lock down all accounts, enroll in credit monitoring, constantly review your bank and credit card statements for unauthorized charges, review your credit reports, and if your identity theft is stolen, your identity is stolen, that's the phone number to call. We could give it to you a little bit later, just because this is a webinar. I think it is recorded, so we'll give that to you later. And then file a report with the UCSD Police Department. If you choose to live off campus, that is a different police agency. That'll be San Diego Police Department. If you live on campus, that'll be UCSD Police. Next slide, please. Here's the information for the UC San Diego Police Department. We will do what we can to assist you for the most part. It is difficult when scammers from overseas are able to scam our international students. So just keep that in mind. They are looking for you, they're expecting you to be vulnerable. And I know a lot of this here was a little bit negative, but overall, as a police officer, the police officers here, we love our international students. They teach us different cultures, especially being in the CSO program, things that I'm unfamiliar with. So I love it. We just all want you to have fun. We were all in college ourselves, and we've all been through it. So just have fun, be safe. If you need anything, my email's to the right, and have fun while you're here. And I'll pass it on to John Carlos.
Excuse me. Okay, thank you, Sheldon. Hi, everybody. Again, this is John Carlos Sr. At Student Legal Services, and welcome again. And you'll see that I'm going to talk about a few things that Sergeant King talked about. in terms of scams. The truth is that a lot of our students, unfortunately, especially our international students, find themselves in situations where money is being stolen from them, and it's very hard to get it back. So we're going to go over that, but unfortunately, there are ways to really reduce your risks. So that's certainly why we're here. As Sergeant King said, um, uh, yes, of course, students at UCSD, including international students, will commit crimes, and it's very important for everyone to know their rights when it comes to interacting with the police, when it comes to the judicial system in general, and that's certainly part of why Student Legal Services exists. Fortunately, there's not a lot of violent crime on campus. Unfortunately, there is property crime. And of course, there are also offenses that involve folks making bad choices, usually involving alcohol and other controlled substances. So please educate yourself as you go forward. And so, yeah, I'll talk about over the next few slides, these issues in particular. Next slide, please, Vanessa. Thank you. So first off, I'm gonna once again sort of re-emphasize the whole issue of scams. As Sergeant King said, we've had students who have lost literally over $1 million, US dollars, from scams. And of course, they're being told, don't tell anybody about this. If you tell anybody, we're going to arrest you. It's almost certainly a scam. And at the very least, what you should do is reach out to the police department, to Student Legal Services, to anyone that you trust on campus to find out more information. I can tell you that our office at Student Legal Services, we're confidential. So even if you told us something, we're not allowed to tell anybody about it anyways. Not even the police, not even UCSD. I'm not allowed to tell my boss even. So please keep that in mind. So a lot of times the scams will involve, for example, asking you to deposit a fake check, so a physical piece of paper. And then for to deposit that, it's going to, maybe in a larger amount than you'll expect. And then they'll also ask you that while you're in that process, that you send them money, using an electronic transfer, using Zelle or Venmo or PayPal, or of course, even Apple Pay or Bitcoin. That is very, very risky. In terms of the students who honestly find themselves out of more money than anybody else, it's the scams involving Social Security, involving the Internal Revenue Service, which is the federal tax service, involving Homeland Security, or ICE or Customs and Immigration. As Sergeant King said, it might be people claiming that they're back in your home country, and that you're being investigated and that you're under arrest. Do not believe it. Make sure that you talk to somebody about it to educate yourself. The government does not call you. The government does not email you typically. If they need, if something is serious enough that they need to speak to you, they're going to send you a letter in the mail, or they're going to visit you. So again, the government will not call you. If you have any questions, contact Student Legal Services, contact the police. Some of the scams that we see, unfortunately, involve renting. So off-campus rentals, people will offer wonderful places at discount prices to rent for the year that turn out to be fake. I've even unfortunately seen them on our official UCSD off-campus housing website. They do the best they can to remove those, but sometimes they can't. But they're just not able to catch all of them. So I always say, do not send your security deposit or any deposit or any kind of money, if possible, until at least you can get here, see the place, verify that it's legitimate. It's difficult, I know, and sometimes, particularly international students, can't come to San Diego before they plan to move here. But do everything you can to verify that the place exists, that the rental is legitimate. And if you do have any questions, you can contact Student Legal Services about that. Just as I said, don't send money if at all possible until you arrive here. Once money is sent, once Bitcoin is sent, there's very little that the police can do because oftentimes it's impossible to track down where the scammer is. I've also seen scams involving fake job postings, including even through Handshake, which is again the official UCSD service that's used by career services. Again, those will typically involve somebody offering you a fake job, saying we'll send you a check, but in the meantime, send us an immediate transfer. Do not do it. Make sure that you follow up and talk to folks. Yes, there's certainly fake merchandise that you can find on lots of websites, and be very careful about that. In terms of fake merchandise, do your best to use authorized sellers or sellers that will, guarantee that a product is really made by whatever company or brand is advertised. Anything involving prepaid cards is going to be a scam. I can just basically guarantee you that. Again, don't send any money until and unless you have the keys to the condo or apartment or house, until you see and have the merchandise available, until you are able to see the contract. So yes, please keep that in mind. And next slide, please, Vanessa. So insurance, this is not a scam, but the insurance system in the United States is very different from what many folks in other countries are accustomed to. So a couple things to keep in mind. If you are a student at UCSD, you have to have insurance. And if you are an international student, you will typically need to get, you would get insurance typically through UC San Diego, which has its own health science department, including student health right on campus. Everyone has to have health insurance. Not everyone has to have dental insurance, so for teeth. But keep in mind that if you have a medical issue or a dental issue, and you're speaking to a doctor or a nurse about, a procedure that they are recommending, it might not be covered. So if there's any way to check before you agree to anything like that with your insurance company to make sure that you're covered, please do so. One that I've seen that international students have encountered is for cosmetic dental work. So fixing teeth like, Invisalign, which is a type of, which is a way of making your teeth look nicer. That might not be covered. And chances are, if it's cosmetic dental work, it's not going to be covered by insurance. So the medical office or dental office might tell you one thing. It might be a completely different story with your insurance company. So talk to your insurance. Speaking of insurance, in terms of what types you need, if you are living off campus or even living on campus, it's always good to get renter's insurance. Renter's insurance covers you in case something gets stolen or damaged of yours. It could also cover you if somebody gets injured where you're living. You should even get coverage in case something happens. Unfortunately, our biggest issue at Student Legal Services that we see involve folks living off campus and their landlords try to keep their security deposit, or maybe there's a plumbing problem and suddenly they need to do repairs. If repairs are needed and you need to move out temporarily, that's what loss of use coverage is. So whether or not your landlord, if you're living off campus, whether or not they require that you get insurance, I always say get the best you can. Feel free to make an appointment with Student Legal Services if you have more questions about that. If you're driving, a lot of our international students like to take breaks between classes. in December and in spring break, to go visit our national parks or travel around the country. It's absolutely worthwhile, number one. And number two, you want to, again, get the best automobile insurance coverage that you need. And if you're going to drive in the United States, you need to have insurance. By the way, you don't necessarily have to have a driver's license from the United States. Typically, your home country can work, although you might need to get it translated to English. But in any case, if you're going to travel, no matter how briefly, get the best automobile insurance you can. The liability insurance, which is the basic, like if you are at fault, they will cover you. That is not enough. If your car gets damaged and it's not your fault, in other words, you would have to pay for it. Liability insurance, again, only works if you are the one at fault. And so that's a good start, but it's just not enough. So try to get comprehensive coverage if you can afford it. Check out this link also. If you we put together a relatively brief sort of introduction to California law and U.S. law. As Sergeant King mentioned, there are laws that apply in the United States and that are going to be different from laws that apply in California. So one very tricky issue is that relating to cannabis, also known as marijuana. Keep in mind that it's marijuana use is illegal under United States law, but it's permitted in California. It's very confusing. All you need to know for present purposes is you can't use marijuana or controlled substances on campus. So I'll just leave it at that. Next slide, please. And I'm running a little bit over. I apologize. But if you are living off campus, there are specific things that you really need to be aware of. Understand that all of your roommates and you are all responsible for fulfilling your obligations under the lease. So make sure you know and can trust your roommates to pay their security deposits. Or excuse me, to pay the rent every month and to not leave in the middle of the lease. Otherwise, you could be held responsible for paying. Protect your security deposit before you move in to an off-campus residence or on campus. Take lots of pictures. Make sure you document the condition of the place so that you can prove its condition when you move out. So I really recommend you take photos, that you fill out an inspection checklist, that if there are any repairs needed, that you put them in writing, and contact Student Legal Services if you want us to talk about your lease, if you have any questions. The last thing I'll say, as Sergeant King mentioned, you have rights with police. If you are stopped by the police, understand that if you are on campus, you absolutely have to identify yourself. And do so accurately. If you are driving, you have to provide proof that you're allowed to drive, so they can absolutely ask for your insurance. Do not run, do not physically resist. One thing to keep in mind is that you have the right to remain silent. You do not have to speak to the police. You do not have to answer questions if you don't want to, aside from identifying yourself. But understand that if you do speak to the police, you absolutely have to speak truthfully. It is a misdemeanor, a criminal offense to lie to the police. So there you go. Remember that phrase, I wish to remain silent. And if you have any questions, contact Student Legal Services. So again, I apologize to my colleagues. I've gone way over, but there's my contact information, and I'll stick around if anybody has any follow-up questions. And thanks again, and welcome everybody.
Thank you. Moving on to our next panelist, Care at the Sexual Assault Resource Center.
Thank you, Vanessa. Yes, so I will share a little bit more information so that you all know what Care at SARC does, and so you understand how you can connect folks to our office or how you can reach out and be connected to our services. So Care at SARC is our free and confidential support office for anyone who has been impacted by sexual assault, relationship violence, and stalking. By free, this really means that there are no additional costs to seeking our support services. We're not asking folks to pay out of pocket. We're not billing insurance. When it comes to confidential, this really means that we are able to have one-on-one conversations with folks that are protected by California legal law. And so all of our Care at Start staff members are trained to be able to support folks who have been impacted. This really means that we are able to really navigate what options and rights folks have, talk about what processes exist both on campus, at the university, or through the criminal legal system here in California. There are some limitations to our confidentiality, and that is if people explain or let us know that they've been impacted by child abuse, elder abuse, if they're considering hurting themselves or they are considering hurting others. Now, we're very clear and upfront with folks about what our confidentiality privilege entails and what limitations it has. This also means that we are not notifying people about the fact that folks are seeking out services. We're not contacting emergency contacts. We're not letting roommates know. It's not going on your student record. If folks want to be connected to additional resources, we do ask for written consent before we share information with anyone else. So we're really transparent upfront about what those confidentiality privileges are. At the university, there are not many staff members who are confidential. There are just about 5 departments or offices that offer confidential support services. Their confidentiality may differ based on the license or certification that they hold. So you always want to make sure you check in with folks. Many of our staff on campus are responsible employees under Title IX and campus security authorities, which means if they are notified that someone has been impacted by any of the topics I've mentioned, that really means that they have to notify the university about it. So we always want to make sure that we're clear with folks about our confidential privilege. And when we're able to support people, we're able to support folks, not just the people who have been directly impacted, but even folks who might be supporting friends, family members, loved ones, or partners. So even if you yourself are not the person who experienced the incident, we are able to help you if you are helping a loved one. The other piece to keep in mind is that we're able to support folks regardless of when the incident took place. So even if this is something that happened, before coming to UC San Diego, even if it happened outside of the county of San Diego, we're able to help folks. We really recognize that trauma impacts folks in many different ways, and it does tend to come up for folks along their life. And especially when they're navigating transitions, we can see when folks might need additional support. In terms of the services that we offer, we do remain grounded on 3 main frameworks. This is that we are trauma-informed, we are survivor-centered, and we use an empowerment model. What this means is that we are working with survivors closely to provide them with the information and tools for them to be able to make the decisions that make the most sense. So we are really doing our work by reminding folks and reminding ourselves that all of us are experts in our own lives, and we might just need support making those decisions. So we're never going to convince or pressure anyone to make a decision that doesn't feel right for them. Trauma-informed, again, I mentioned that trauma impacts people in different ways. So we do a lot of education about what that might look like, what our body does when it goes into survival mode. And we do try to combat some feelings and sensations that may come up around shame and blame about how an incident happened and how folks may have reacted in those moments. And empowerment-based really acknowledges that we all hold many different strengths and skills. So we want to make sure that we're using those as we're working with folks and reminding them that, they have a lot of power in the space and they have a lot of autonomy in the way that we support them. And we are very clear, again, about how we can support them and what limitations we might have. Our survivor support services, these are the folks that work really closely with people who have been impacted by harm. We do provide support 24/7. So during our typical business hours, which tend to be for the university from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., you will usually talk to our intake and program coordinator, Jessica, if you call our phone number. Outside of our business hours, on the weekends and on the holidays, we do have a third service provider who answers and screens our calls. We have on-call advocates that if that call is identified as an urgent need or an immediate response, our on-call advocate will follow up with that person directly. Our advocates are able to really navigate all the options and rights that folks have. We explore, what options they have in this moment, what options they might have if time passes. We really are able to navigate, if they move forward with a reporting process, either through the university or the criminal legal system, what that process might look like, how long it might take, and we're able to support them by actually going with them to appointments, to court proceedings, and just prepping them for what is to come. There are options if folks want to be connected to medical forensic exams. Our advocates can help coordinate that. Outside of really looking at next steps from when an incident occurs, we also do a needs assessment. So we want to make sure that we check in with folks and identify, what is coming up for you as you're navigating this? Are you having a hard time struggling to concentrate in class? Do you need flexibility around a project or upcoming exam? Are you realizing that, you are experiencing food insecurity or no longer feeling safe where you're living? So do you need support with looking for alternative housing and accommodations? We really look beyond just that immediate impact of an incident and look at the ripple effects and work with our several campus partners. And we also have off-campus service providers to ensure that we can support folks in whatever way they might need support. We also help navigate creating safety plans. So looking at what can we do to maximize a person's safety. That might be working with their network, that might be looking at accommodations and flexibility, and just thinking about next steps to maintain safety. The last piece that our advocates really help us support with is, although we do not provide talk therapy or counseling services, we work really closely with CAPS to match folks to a therapist. They do provide alternative methods of healing. So they do host holistic healing programs that explore ways that you can heal by connecting with your peers, by processing trauma, by exploring healing through alternative modalities like music, movement, art, different things beyond just talk therapy. Outside of our survivor support services, we do provide prevention education and training. So, participating in programs like this, really making sure that students, staff, and faculty are connected to our office. We are able to support all students, regardless of if they're undergraduate, graduate students, staff, and faculty on campus. And we work really closely with folks to ensure that they are trained to respond to disclosures if it ever happens, that they know who to direct folks to, and that we all recognize that we play a role in creating a safer campus community here at UC San Diego. So we participate in different orientation programs. We put on workshops and events throughout the year just to make sure we're engaging in conversations around building healthy relationships, navigating consent, exploring how we can be active bystanders, and supporting survivors generally. You are able to request programs and trainings from our office. I encourage you, if you're part of a student organization or you're curious to learn more, to reach out and be connected to us. Some safety considerations in terms of the intersection of the work that we do. We do, especially considering how technology plays a role in how folks are connecting with people and building new friendships, that we remind people to be really mindful of the information that folks disclose online. We need to become more aware of the digital footprint that we are leaving on the internet, and how people can use that information and take advantage of it. So we always remind people, be very well aware of the privacy settings you have on different apps. If there is problematic behavior, harassment that's happening on those applications, know about what the user agreements are, what those community guidelines are, and report the behavior. We always recommend, if things are becoming maybe more serious or more than just maybe a casual, like, rude message, that you let folks know that you need support so that that can be addressed. We also recognize that there's a lot that we can do to try to maximize our safety, and that sometimes we do engage in these safety procedures and can still be impacted or experience harm. So we want to make sure that we remind folks that regardless of how much we might do to mitigate harm, it is never your fault if you do experience any form of a crime or harm or violation to your boundaries that might happen. And with that, I'll go ahead and leave you all with our contact information. On the screen, you have a QR code to our link tree, which has our website, our social media accounts, handouts, and several helpful materials to review. Our 24/7 phone number is listed on the screen. If you're interested in being connected to an advocate, you can email careadvocate@ucsd.edu. If you're curious to learn more about the programs or workshops we offer, you can email careinfo@ucsd.edu. We are located at the Student Services Center. We're up at the 5th floor, right next to Student Legal Services, Suite 500. And this building is right next to the Price Center, which is a big student hub. So once you're on campus, you'll kind of get a better sense of that. We encourage folks to follow us on Instagram to see all of our latest programs and events and to learn how you can talk about these subjects with your friends and family. Thank you all. Excited to see you all on campus soon.
Okay, hi everybody. Again, my name is Christine and I work at Student Financial Solutions. We're more of the billing side of the university, but today I'll be going over some tips on how to avoid tuition and housing scams. Okay, so the first thing is to protect your credentials. You should never share your online credentials with anyone nor provide any financial information to anyone outside of your family. So your student ID and your UCSD email along with your password, it's super important to keep that to yourself. Those are the credentials that you use to log into your Trident Pay account, which could have personal information regarding yourself, your parents, if you have any information on there, as well as saved payments. So make sure to keep that to yourself so that you're the only one, in addition to your family, that has access to that information. Next is to use official payment methods. We'll be going over these methods in the next slide, so you're aware of what you can use to make payments for tuition and housing. And then lastly, you want to avoid solicitation. So don't respond to any third-party solicitations for payments for tuition or housing fees. All of your payments should be made directly on your Trident Pay account. So if someone is asking for a payment, I know we've had a few cases where people are asking for payments because then they can provide a discounted amount. We don't offer discounts, nor should anyone else be making payments on your behalf outside of your parents that are authorized on your account. So keep that in mind. We don't people shouldn't be making payments for you, and all of your payments should be made directly on your Trident Pay account. For WeHousing, this is a company that we've been made aware of. So students who use this third-party company to find housing, pay deposits, or pay for rent, they often receive eviction notices because when they sent the money to WeHousing never sent them to the owners. So although they did send a payment in, it never got to the leasing office or again the owners. So the money was never received, and eventually they had to get evicted. So again, this is something where you guys should make payments directly to who the payments should be going to. This is more for those that are living off campus. Sometimes the leasing office isn't connected to UCSD, so you're not able to make those payments through your Trident Pay portal. But in those cases, you should be sending the money directly to the leasing office. And then if you become a victim, or sorry, don't become a victim, if you do receive a suspicious call, just hang up, tell the caller that you refuse to cooperate with their threats. And then mentioned previously, you guys should be contacting the UC San Diego Police Department so that you can submit a report and receive any help if needed. And then lastly, notify ICEO just to inform them about your situation so that they can provide you with any additional resources you need. All right, so here are the accepted payment options. If you log into your Trident Pay account, there are a few options to pay online. So the first one we highly recommend is using an e-check. This requires you to have a US bank account. And then when you initiate the payment, it will post immediately. And then there's only a 50-cent service fee associated to these payments. You can also use a credit card to make payments online. These have a 2.75% service fee per transaction. And then we accept Apple Pay, Visa, MasterCards, Discover, and American Express. And then you can only use these online, so you can't use a credit card to make an in-person payment. For students who don't have a US bank account, we do offer international payments through Flywire, Convera, and TransferMate. These are all accessible in your Trident Pay portal. I'll go ahead and send a link in the chat for more information regarding what these payment methods offer. So Convera, Flywire, and TransferMate offer different payment methods within their own company. They also show how to initiate those payments and then contact information for any issues that, might come up. And then if you're not able to make online payments, we do accept in-person payments using cash. Personal checks, cashier's checks, traveler's checks. Just keep in mind that it does need to be in US dollars. These checks should be made payable to UC Regents and should include your PID and your name so we know who the check is associated to. For third-party payments, these are students who are being sponsored by an agency. It's very formal. So in order for us to set up your contract, there needs to be a financial guarantee that's sent to our office, and then that third-party agency will then send the money directly to the university. Once we receive all that information, we'll go ahead and set up your contract and then apply the payments to your student account. And then lastly, for 529 payments, these are from a prepaid educational savings plan, and it is considered cash. So typically these are mailed to the university, but if you log into Trident Pay and see that your plan is listed on there, you can go ahead and initiate an electronic transfer. These payments have a $10 service fee. Okay, so here's our contact information. You can go ahead and send in a ticket at support.ucsd.edu/students. This will create a case and then you'll be directly emailing someone from our office to help you with your inquiries. You can also give us a call at 858-946-4160. And then these are our operating times. We are open until 6 o'clock, Monday through Friday until the 27th. So yeah, if you're working, if you have some classes, we are open for additional 2 hours until the end of next week. And we are also open this weekend for move-in date from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thank you, and I hope you guys enjoy UCSD.
All right, a huge thank you to all of our panelists today for helping to inform our students who are here and who might watch this about how to protect themselves and also to protect their status. It's really important. So again, if you all have any questions after the webinar, here's some contact information for all of the campus partners who presented today. Yeah, so we unfortunately don't have any more time for today. If you have any further questions, please reach out to the offices that are listed on the screen. Also, ISEO can serve as your primary contact. If you have questions or concerns, we're happy to kind of triage you to point you in the right direction of services if you feel comfortable speaking to us. As a reminder, some of the things that UCPD was speaking about are things that can impact your visa status and your status here. So domestic students don't necessarily have that extra burden of worry. So if you would like to discuss any of that, or if anything happens and you feel like you just need to talk to someone or need to know where to go, we're always happy here at ISEO and as your international student advisors to be your first point of contact. We're happy to be here for you. Of course, let's see, we do have, okay, the payment information. And before we wrap up, we end the webinar, we're going to go through some of the events that we have for the week of orientation for the next few events. We at ISEO do have meetups, and they're a great way to meet other international students here at UCSD who will likely share similar interests. If you'd like to register for meetups, please head to ievents.ucsd.edu. An overview of the kinds of events we host here at ISEO. We do have the UC San Diego bus tour where you can get to know San Diego and your new neighborhood, your new neighborhoods over the course of the time that you're here. We had one last weekend and we have one coming up to tomorrow, the 21st. Our Fan Fest was last night, and then we do have an international mixer coming up on September 25th, next Wednesday. So if you're interested in that, head over to iEvents. We also host socials. Last Tuesday, we had our social for international graduate students. Then on next Thursday, September 26th, we will have our Gap Mixer for those who participated in the Global Ambassador Program. If you want to know what's happening at UC San Diego all year long, Our iEvents calendar is a live calendar that features globally engaged events hosted by student organizations and campus departments throughout the year. So make sure to regularly check ievents.ucsd.edu for the latest events that are happening around campus. Finally, we're always looking to make improvements to our sessions and events. So please take a few minutes to fill out the survey by scanning the QR code on your screen. By filling out the survey, you're not only helping us to improve this webinar for future sessions, you will also be eligible for a gift card giveaway raffle to win a $10 Amazon gift card. So anything to help, anything helps when moving to San Diego. We really appreciate your feedback. So please complete this in the next minute or so. While you're filling it out, I have a few final reminders. Once you arrive in the US, and begin your studies, or if you're here now during orientation, please submit the check-in form for I-20 DS-29 activation. If you do not submit this, you will have problems in the future. So please submit it so we can process appropriately. If you're here, you can submit it as soon as you're here. So go ahead and feel free. Once you get off the airplane, you get through CBP, go ahead and submit. Also, please continue to register for other orientation sessions. If you check iEvents and there's something you want to attend, you can visit iorientation.ucsd.com.edu, excuse me. Lastly, you can always contact ISCO at icontact.ucsd.edu. And of course, follow us on social media. Thank you all for attending today's session. Again, whether you're joining us from inside the US or from the other side of the world, on behalf of the International Services and Engagement Office here at UC San Diego, enjoy the rest of your afternoon, evening, morning, or perhaps night. Have a great fall quarter, and we look forward to getting to know you. Thank you.